You have questions?
What is slashing?
We have answers.
Slashing is like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the box, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey? Here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
And welcome to another edition of CBJ in 30, coming to you today from the Verizon Center here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where tonight the Blue Jackets are getting set to take on the Washington Capitals. Taking your questions, your comments, whatever you have for me, you can tweet it to me at Bobby Mac Sports and use the hashtag CBJin30. So the Blue Jackets getting set for a morning skate here in Washington. The Washington Capitals don't skate here at their home arena. They have a practice facility that they go to and they skate on game days, and that practice facility is in Arlington, Virginia, I do believe. Here we go. Now the lights will start to come up here at the Verizon Center and give you a better idea of what's going on. It's like, everybody slept in today, and now we're starting to power up and get going here. But the Blue Jackets needing a big win here tonight. They need to continue to do what they have been doing, and that is just going out and finding a way to get a victory. They've won 4 straight games coming into this one tonight. 2 against the Florida Panthers, 1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then, of course, the other night the Blue Jackets got the win on home ice over the Philadelphia Flyers in overtime. So they just need to continue, just need to persevere, and they're in the same boat, really, that the Washington Capitals are coming into this game tonight. Now, the Capitals have won 3 straight games, and they did what the Blue Jackets did last Saturday. That is, they went into Tampa, and they got themselves a victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they're feeling good about themselves right now. They also are holding that final playoff spot in the Metropolitan Division coming into play here tonight. So this is a team that the Blue Jackets are looking to catch. And yes, to get there, they have to jump over the Philadelphia Flyers and the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. I get all of that. But you can only get there by winning and picking up points. And this is the team that you're shooting for right now. So you go and try to get these points tonight. 4-point game tonight for the Blue Jackets as they take on the Capitals. Second time this year that the two teams are playing. Both have been right here at the Verizon Center so far. We'll just look at some of the numbers that the Capitals are pulling down in the midst of their 3-game winning streak right now. They've outscored the opposition 11-5 in this the 3-game streak. So they're making it tough to score goals. So allowing 5 goals in 3 games, so they're doing pretty well in that department. Alex Ovechkin had a goal in the game against Tampa the other night, and for Ovechkin, he had gone 4 straight without scoring a goal. He and Marcus Johansson were the ones that scored the goals. They scored goals for the Capitals in the win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mike Green has missed 7 straight games with an upper body injury. He remains day-to-day, so I don't think the Blue Jackets are going to see him tonight, and that's a good thing because he's a good offensive defenseman. When he's healthy, he's a weapon on the blue line. There's no doubt about that, and the Capitals are better with him in the lineup than they are without him in the lineup. So the Blue Jackets, they'll be fine if he doesn't play tonight. As far as the Blue Jackets, Brandon Dubinsky will play his 2nd game of the year here this evening. Should be the same lineup, maybe not entirely the same. Maybe there'll be a change here or there in the lineup for Todd Richards' group. We'll find out when they skate this morning. But for all intents and purposes, I would expect the same thing going on tonight as happened on Tuesday night against the Philadelphia Flyers. Fedor Tyutin made the trip with the Blue Jackets, and even though he's not going to play in this game tonight, that is good to see that he is getting closer to getting back. In fact, he has to be getting pretty close to getting back if he's making the trip here to Washington, D.C. So that is something that we can look forward to, Fedor Tyutin getting back into the lineup pretty soon for the Blue Jackets. I know I'm looking forward to that because he's missed, and you kind of forget about him a little bit because you get so used to what he does and how he does it, and then he's not in there and they're winning right now, so it's a little bit, it's easier to forget about him right now when you're winning, but he is a solid force on that blue line, and the Blue Jackets need him back in there as soon as they can get him back in. So it's good to see him making the trip. It was great to see him get on the plane yesterday and head over here to Washington, D.C. And as I said, that just means that he's getting closer and closer to getting back into the lineup for the Blue Jackets, and they can use them. And then somebody's going to be pinched out, and that's just the way that it is, and that's a good thing. Blue Jackets also made 2 roster moves yesterday. They activated Cody Golubev off the injured reserve list and then assigned him to Springfield on a conditioning assignment. Now, why would they do that? Well, number one, he'll get a chance to go and play. And number two, because they did it on a conditioning assignment, they don't have to send him through waivers to go down there, and they can take their time, is what I'm trying to say. They can wait and see what's going on. What do you do with a guy like Cody Golubev now? Because in the midst of his absence, you've picked up 2 other defensemen, the veteran defenseman in Jordan Leopold, and then Kevin Connaughton off waivers from the Dallas Stars. So now you have even more people on the blue line than you did at the start of the year because of the injuries that you've gone through. How does that affect Cody Golubev, a young right-handed shot defenseman that probably has some value and some teams have some interest in? So do you hang on to him? Do you try to sneak him through waivers? Do you see if there's enough interest in making a deal? And do you feel that you can do without him if you can get something back for him? These are the kind of questions that now have to be asked. They didn't have to be asked while he was on the injured reserve list, but now it's time to figure it out. And the first step in the process is to send him back to Springfield and to have him play and get conditioning, because he's got to get back into playing shape, and that's a good move right off the top. Kirby Reichel also was sent back down yesterday, and I know this is going to sit kind of badly in a way, and we talked about this the other day when he was scratched against the Flyers, and somebody asked me flat out, do you like that scratch? And I said, no, not really. I thought he played well enough in the 3 games that he played to continue to play, but then what we kind of forget about here is the big picture and the overall plan. And the overall plan is, and always was, and I talked about this all during the summer, I talked about it in the early part of the season doing this show, I talked about it in the preseason, the fact that you no longer have to rush players. Well, then all of a sudden we got into a situation where everybody had to be rushed and everybody had to be in the NHL, and I've kind of forgotten my own mantra and my own speech here. But here it is, once again. You don't have to push these players. You don't have to have these first-round picks playing in the National Hockey League right now. You don't. You can have them wait. You can have them in Springfield playing the big minutes, playing the power play minutes, playing the penalty kill minutes, doing all of the things that they are going to be expected to do in the NHL. 2 guys started the season with this team are no longer here. Marco Dano, first and foremost, had a very good camp, made the team, no question out of camp. Then he started off well, then he started to taper off. That's what you expect out of a young player. Alexander Wenberg got a more extended look. A lot of the reason for that is because he's a centerman, and the Blue Jackets are down on centerman. So he got a chance to play a lot of different roles. He played with everybody on the roster, with the exception of Ryan Johansson, believe it or not, which is believable because they're both centers. But anyway, so they send him back down for the big minutes. So Kirby Reichel, even though he came up here and he did a good job over those 3 games, is it necessary with the people that are back in the lineup now to have him here playing at the moment? No, it's not necessary. And so do the right thing, and that's what they did yesterday. They sent him back to Springfield. It's probably a disappointment for him, but I talked with Jarmo Kekalainen coming out of the hotel this morning, and I asked him flat out, I said, was it hard for you to send Kirby Reichel back to Springfield? And he said, no, not really, because if he's not going to play, I don't want him to be up here sitting. I want him in game situations. I want him where he's going to play. And that's what the mindset has to be. That's what the outlook has to be, because that's what's going to make the player better in the end, is by playing minutes, whether it's in the NHL or in the AHL. And right now those minutes are in the AHL, so go down there and get them. And I totally agree with that. And plus, for Kirby, you know, he's come up. He knows he can play. That should further fuel him to get back up here. And as I said to Jarmo, it wasn't a bad little sample size, was it? He said, no, not at all. So he made a good impression, and that's what you want to do. You want to do that with the coaching staff. You want to do that with the management. You go back down. You continue to play hard, because now what the challenge is going to be for Kirby Reichel, it's going to be to go back down there and do the same job. And sometimes that's hard to do. It shouldn't be for a first-year player like that, I understand. But there are times when you feel that you're playing well in the NHL, you get sent back down, you don't agree with it, and you're not happy about it, and then guess what happens? Then your game suffers while you're down there. So if your game suffers, then when they're looking for somebody to bring up next time, you might not be the guy. That's why you have to guard against all of that. If you're Kirby Reichel, you have to be happy about what you did here. You have to acknowledge the fact that you know you can play here, you know you can be a difference maker here, and you're going to go down there and prove it by being a dominant player in the American Hockey League. And then the next time you get a chance, you're going to come up here and you're going to do the exact same thing you did, but you're going to do it even better the next time around. So that's what his mindset has to be. So those 2 roster moves were made yesterday, and as I said, I think they're both good roster moves. It gives Golubev a chance to get in shape. It puts Reichel back into a situation where he's going to play a lot of minutes instead of sitting in the press box and watching other guys play. And another thing about it is, and I know that one thing that could pop into your mind would be, okay, Kirby Reichel over Jared Boll. Would Kirby Reichel benefit from playing on the 4th line, and could he play better and play a bigger role than Jared Boll could? And my answer to that is, who cares? Who cares if he can or if he can't? Is he going to be a 4th line player when he is a regular in the NHL? And I'm talking about Reichel. Is he going to be a 4th line player, or is he going to be a 2nd line power forward? So if he's going to be a guy that plays on a higher line, and you don't need him right now because you have other people to fill in those lesser roles here, so then you put him back down and you let him play the role in the American Hockey League that he's going to play up here. And you let him get accustomed to it, and you let him play in the same system. And then when he comes up, you plug him into that. So, again, I have no problem with him going down. My only problem was, if he wasn't going to play, don't let him sit up here and just kind of waste away and practice. You can go through that whole argument about practicing with the NHL team makes you better. And even though there's some substance to that, come on. Playing in games is always better. That competition is always better. So he's back down there in the American Hockey League where he's going to get that competition and he's going to get the big minutes. So that's where we stand going into today. And those 2 players are out for now. Ryan Murray's still on the shelf for the Blue Jackets. That's another guy they could very much use back. I almost said desperately need back on the blue line, but I checked myself on that because I don't know that they desperately need him back. They would very much like to have him back as soon as he's possibly ready to play. I'll give you that one. But they're not desperate in that department because you've got Tim Erickson, who's battling to get into the lineup. Kevin Connauton has been battling to stay in the lineup. You'll have Fedor Tutin coming back, creating more competition. I mentioned Golubev. You're going to have to do something with him. So, you've got 9 guys right there. If you count all of them, you've got the 6 that are playing. You have 3 more that are on the way back. So, you're not desperate yet. But you sure would take Ryan Murray back in your lineup the first chance that you could possibly get him. So tonight's game getting underway at 7 o'clock here at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. Blue Jackets and the Capitals. And then the Caps will be in Columbus next week, actually, next Thursday, to play against the Blue Jackets there. Alex Ovechkin will be playing in this game tonight. And Alex Ovechkin, I would say with, 100% certainty, will be playing in the All-Star game in Columbus at the end of January. So over the course of the next week, try to catch up with him for even a minute or 2. A couple of questions about playing in the All-Star game and about how he feels it'll be to do that in Columbus. We'll probably try to do that next week when he comes into Nationwide Arena because it'll make sense. He'll be there and you can talk about it, talk about being out in the city and all those kind of things. But, you look at these next couple of games that are coming up, and you're going to see guys that are guaranteed locks to be in the All-Star game. Ovechkin tonight, Sidney Crosby's coming in on Saturday to play for the Penguins, upcoming very soon here on the schedule. Well, we'll go to Detroit at the beginning of next week, so there'll be some guys on that team that are for sure going to be in. Then coming into the arena here in the next couple of games, it's going to be the Blackhawks. It'll be the Bruins coming back. So there are a lot of players that you're going to see at the end of January, and you're going to be cheering against them here over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks. But you might be cheering for them, depending upon what team they wind up on in the All-Star game. So that's going to be fun. Again, subplots. There are plots, there are subplots, and those are some subplots to watch. But if you think I'm going to cheer for Alexander Ovechkin to do anything good in this game tonight or anything good next week at Nationwide Arena, you would be seriously mistaken. Absolutely not. But in the All-Star game, I hope he puts on a show. Simple as that. All right, let's get to your questions on CBJ in 30 today. And I told you yesterday that we would talk today about the Board of Governors meetings. And the one thing that really stood out from the Board of Governors meetings is Gary Bettman has been downplaying this expansion thing for a long time, for weeks or months. And there's been Seattle that's been talked about. Vegas has been in the mix. Quebec is building a new building. They want to franchise there desperately once again. So there's been a lot of talk, and it's been poo-pooed and pushed off, and nobody wants to talk about it. All of a sudden, they go to the Board of Governors meeting. And this guy, William Foley, I think that's his name, he has a lot of money. And he wants to put a team in Vegas. They're building a 20,000-seat arena right on the Strip, and he wants to put a team there. He has interest in being the owner of a team that is going to play in Las Vegas. So the league, after all of these weeks and months of saying, this expansion thing, everybody's getting ahead of themselves, all of a sudden they've told him, okay, you can start a season ticket drive. You can go ahead and try to solicit season tickets, and let's see how it goes. And let's see what you come up with. Because, here's the key for the National Hockey League. If they put a team in Las Vegas, they don't want it to have to rely on tourists. They want it to rely upon the local people, not just the tourists. And that's going to be the real trick of the trade, finding a way to make that work and finding out if it will work, if at all. Now, I don't know if I told this story before, but a couple of years ago, it's probably been 7 years ago, I was in Vegas for the baseball winter meetings. And I was going to the airport early in the morning, and the guy that was driving the cab was a New York native. And I asked him flat out, I said, let me ask you this question. There's a lot of talk about either the NBA or the NHL coming here to Las Vegas. I said, let's just take hockey. And I told him, I said, I do hockey, so let's take hockey. Would an NHL team work here in Vegas? And he didn't even hesitate. He said, yeah, it would work. He said, you know why? Because there's a lot of people like me from the East Coast who come out here years ago, you're working, and they would come out, they would support it. The people know hockey here. And the other thing that is forgotten is that there is a history of hockey in Las Vegas. There's a ECHL team there right now, although they've suspended operations for a year, but they've been playing there. What are they, the Wranglers? And prior to that, there was an International Hockey League team there, the Las Vegas Thunder, that played for a number of years, and they did pretty well. And again, their arenas weren't on the Strip. They were off the Strip. So there is a bit of history there. There's a history of having teams, pro teams, in Las Vegas, pro hockey teams in Las Vegas. So will it work? That is the real question. But they're going to give this guy a chance to start a season ticket drive and see what he comes up with. And the league would like to control that a little bit. They would like to, kind of control the parameters of this, not search, but this venture. But they want to make sure it would be a long-term proposition, not just, a short-term thing. They don't want it to be the Arizona Coyotes. They don't want it to be a franchise they're going back to every 3 to 5 years and trying to figure out if it's going to work, how they can make it work better, and how they can save it. That's what they don't want. So they want it to be a sure bet, pardon the pun. So I asked the question, do you think that the NHL can work in Vegas? Do you think that? I asked the question to you today. Do you think that the NHL could work in Vegas? And I got a lot of responses to that one. And the first one comes from Mark. And I love his. I think he has the best one. So let's start with the best right now. So will the NHL work in Vegas? And Mark says, we will never know. What happens in Vegas, ... And of course, if you've seen the ads, you know the rest. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. They may never even tell us what happened with their season ticket drive. Maybe a team will just pop up. And if it does, maybe you'll never know. Maybe they won't even have highlights. Then maybe they won't even show highlights of the games because maybe it'll just all stay in Vegas. Who knows? That's a good one, Mark. I like your creativity to start the day. My boy Bunk Tuesday, who has changed his Twitter handle to vote for Yowie, because he's a huge Ryan Johansson guy, and he wants Ryan Johansson to be playing in the All-Star game in Columbus at the end of January. But Bunk Tuesday says they almost lost their ECHL team, but the NHL is a big enough name that people will come. Let's go with a couple of more before I respond to that. W.S. Rutherford says, I don't think so. There's not enough of a fan base, in my opinion, for any pro sport, hence why there isn't one. I don't think there is one because there hasn't been a good venue, to be honest with you. I think the arena that they're building now can really attract an NHL or an NBA team. And I think prior to that, they didn't have one that would attract somebody the way this one is going to. Let's see here. Danny says, it's hard to picture it working there when their ECHL team averaged only 4,300 people. But it is Vegas, so if they can make it a touristy attraction, maybe. This is one thing now Allie Quinn responds to that and says that that's wrong. They only average 4,300 people. Here's what I would say to all of that, okay? I mentioned they did have the ECHL team. They did have an IHL team, and you can use that as a bit of a barometer, but they weren't major league. They are minor league, and they are seen as minor league. And it doesn't matter who they're affiliated with, if they're affiliated with anybody at all. It's minor league, and it's got that stigma and that perception. The National Hockey League is totally different, and it is more legit, and it would carry a lot more weight, like Montuzzi said, and I agree with that a lot. And I think that you can take some information off what the ECHL has done there, what the IHL has done there, but at the end of the day, the NHL is a totally different beast. And what they do is going to be completely different because they come, packing the big name. They are the big boys. They are the pros. They are the serious pros. They are the major league professionals. So I think it's completely different than either of those two teams that was there previously. Fro says, with how the city is expanding, I think it will work. They've been waiting for an actual sports team there for a while. I know their mayor has been pitching to everybody forever about trying to get a team there. They wanted Major League Baseball to go in there with a team. I think was it the Florida Marlins at the time before they got that new building in Miami to become the Miami Marlins. I think they were courting them to go out and play in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. So they've been trying to get just about everybody. Elaine says if you build it, they will come, and that's very possible, Elaine. It's very, very possible as well. Danny and Allie going back and forth here about the actual attendance figures of the ECHL team. And again, that doesn't really matter. It does, but it doesn't. Because listen, I was in the ECHL for years, and look in Columbus. In Columbus, the fairgrounds in the ECHL sat 5,000 people, right? And now there's an 18,000 seat building, and you can sit 18,000 people. So they looked at that and saw that people were coming to support the Chill at the time, and you can parlay that into potential NHL support and all of that. But still, it's still two different beasts, and it is Vegas, so everything is big league there. So big league is going to go far more than minor league is in Las Vegas for sure. Let's see. Renatalis says it seems unlikely. Too many established competitors for time and money, and when people think of Vegas Vacation, they don't think NHL. Well, when they think Vegas Vacation, they think Chevy Chase and Randy Quaid, of course, in that casino that they went to, which is, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10, 5. Oh, no, sorry, it was 7. Give me your $5. Or Which Hand? That was my favorite one, my favorite game. Which Hand? Oh, no, you lose. I'm sorry. If you say Vegas Vacation, to me, that's what I think of. I think of that movie, which to me is not the best one of the lot. I mean, the original Vacation is good, but Christmas Vacation, to me, the penultimate. I mean, this is the time of the year where I can sit and watch that movie 100 times back to back. And it would, just like with Christmas Story, you can sit and watch that over and over. I could watch Christmas Vacation over and over and over and over again. There's so many great Cousin Eddie lines in that movie, and some of them you could recite on the air. Some of them. I think the better ones you cannot, unfortunately. I know the first one that pops into my head, and I can't say. Let's see. Katie Frasher says, no, it won't happen there because it's a tourist spot, not a city. Lots of people live. No, it is a city where a lot of people live, to be honest with you. Because a lot of people have to live there to, do all the things that you want to go out there and do. You have to have dealers. You have to have, people serving food. You have to have, there's a lot of people that live out there. Remember, once upon a time, before the housing market went, you could go to Vegas and you could get a pretty nice place. And they were building like crazy out there, and people were moving out there, and, that tailed off, but that'll pick up again. Everything is cyclical, so that'll pick up again, for sure. What is the other thing I wanted to get to here? Oh, one of the things that the ECHL team would do, and I don't see the NHL doing this, and it's only because of television, is there were times they would play midnight games. They would start the game at midnight. Now, you could do that in the ECHL because there's a players' union, but it's not the NHLPA. But I couldn't see these guys saying, hey, let's start a game at midnight. Talk about screwing up the whole schedule. I think it would be pretty neat, though, and I wouldn't mind if they could pull off a couple of those, and I wouldn't mind going out there and playing in one of those, as a matter of fact. But the reason they would do it is because a lot of people would get off work, and then they could come over to the game and watch the game after they were done working. I also think that with a Vegas team, I think it has a benefit in the fact that you'd probably want to play a lot of the home games during the week, because a lot of the local people that you want to be your fan base will probably do it, or it might be a little bit easier for them to come to weekday games than it is to go to weekend games. And everybody in this league wants weekend games. And if you find a franchise that doesn't need to survive on a weekend schedule, and you can give those weekend dates to other teams, and they'll still be packing the house during the week, that could work out well too. I'm not saying they're not going to want any Saturday, Sunday games, because they will, but you might be able to slip some more Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games in there as well, and Thursday games like this one tonight. You might be able to slip some of those games in there and still have good attendance and free up some weekend spots for some other teams. Who knows? Because, maybe it works better for people's work schedules that way in Vegas. So that's good feedback. I like it. I don't know if it'll work or not. I kind of hope it does. I mean, they're going to add 2 teams in the Western Conference. There's no way they're going to stay with this imbalance of 16 and 14. So they're going to add 2 more. And they're saying the Florida Panthers are staying put, which has the people in Quebec livid, I'm sure. But, again, I just told you. They've been saying for months, forget about this expansion stuff, and now all of a sudden there's a guy that's allowed to start a season ticket drive and see if he can get a fan base and a ticket base to have the potential to get an expansion franchise. So, a lot of things are said. What ends up actually happening could be totally different. I'm not saying the Florida Panthers are going to leave. In fact, I'm really against teams moving from one city to another city. I just hate it. I understand why you look at it. I understand why it happens, as a matter of fact. But, I'm a creature of habit. I miss the Montreal Expos. And they came right here to Washington, D.C., reinvented as the Nationals. But, I feel bad for the people that are the true hardcore fans that paid their money to try to do everything they could for those teams to stay there, and then their team is gone. So I hate seeing teams move personally. But, if it happens, it happens. It's all about business, right? So wherever the business is best, that's where you go. But I just can't see the 16-14 imbalance for very long. And I think they want to go 16-16 at some point, and you put them in the West. If you have 2 cities in the West. And right now, just from the outside looking in and not knowing anything more than you do, Seattle and Las Vegas look very viable. And I haven't even talked about the fact that these franchises could go for up to $500 million in expansion fees. Up to $500 million. Can you believe that? That would raise the value of everybody else's franchise. Everybody gets to split that revenue that is generated by expansion teams. And if I'm not mistaken, in the collective bargaining agreement, any of the, if there's expansion fees, they don't have to be shared with the players. They're just broken up amongst the owners. So there's a lot of positives to it, quite frankly. But you have to be right. It has to be done right. You can't go into a place where 5 years into it, you're going, oh boy, we have another Phoenix situation where we have to find a new owner and we have to maybe take over the franchise and run it. They don't want anything to do with any of that, and I don't blame them. They shouldn't. You've got to do your homework. There has to be a hard vetting process to make sure that you're going into the right spot. And that's the most important thing of all. Christopher Momeyer says, with Cody Golubev healthy, how do you see the Blue Jackets handling 8 healthy defensemen and then 10 when Tootin and Murray are healthy? They're not going to. They're not going to. They're going to, they're going to have to decide if they want to slip some guys through waivers, if they want to, or if they have the ability to trade somebody. Or, here's another thing. We can sit here and talk all about this, and then 2 guys can get hurt by the time that 2 guys come back. Because how often does that happen? A lot. So they're not going to have 10 guys up here on the roster they're not going to have 10 defensemen up here. No way. They're going to have to do something. They'll have to make some kind of a move. So, and Fedor Tutin's back in there. Ryan Murray's back in there when they're healthy. So, it's your mix of Eriksson, Golubev, Connaughton. So that's 3. What did you say? There's 6 now, 10. So there's that leaves 7. And that's probably what you go with. You'd have 7 guys. So, it's going to be in that mix. That's where you're going to make your decisions when it comes to all of that. So, good questions today. Good feedback. I like it. I like it a lot. And hopefully we all like what happens here tonight at the Verizon Center. Blue Jackets and the Washington Capitals. Blue Jackets looking for their 5th straight win and looking to get that win and then come back home to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins on Saturday night. Don't forget, the game is going to start at 7 o'clock this evening, and I will be on the air at 7 on the Scioto Downs Blue Jackets radio network, and Mark Wyant will actually be on there starting at 6:45 tonight with pregame coverage. So that's what's coming up tonight from the Verizon Center. So hope that you enjoy it this evening. Blue Jackets hitting the ice and getting ready for their morning skate, getting ready to get themselves all loosened up and ready to go and take on Alexander Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals here tonight. Should be a good one, no doubt about that. Again, 7 o'clock, the puck is going to drop from here at the nation's capital. Enjoy your day. And right after practice, after the morning skate, I'll go get some player interviews or reaction. You'll be able to find it at BlueJackets.com. It's going to be a great day, I guarantee you. And I will talk to you tonight.